They were called the Lords of the Plains, a name whispered in fear and respect across the vast, windswept landscapes of the American West. For over a century, the Comanche Empire was not just a tribe. It was a force of nature, a mounted juggernaut that halted the advance of empires and struck terror into the hearts of anyone who dared to cross them. Their story isn't just one of resistance. It's the story of a people who mastered their environment so completely that they became its undisputed rulers. So, how did a nomadic group from the Great Basin rise to become one of the most formidable powers in American history? Before the horse, the Comanche were a relatively modest tribe, part of the larger Shoshone people. But in the late 17th century, something revolutionary happened. They encountered the horse, brought to the New World by the Spanish. For the Comanche, this wasn't just a new animal. It was the key to unlocking a destiny they could have only dreamed of. They didn't just learn to ride, they became one with the horse. The bond was so profound that a Comanche warrior was said to be more comfortable on horseback than on his own 2 feet. This mastery of horsemanship became the cornerstone of their power. Comanche children learned to ride almost as soon as they could walk. They practiced breathtaking feats of equestrian skill that left their enemies utterly bewildered. Imagine a warrior galloping at full speed, suddenly dropping down to hang from the side of his horse, using its body as a moving shield while he loosed a volley of arrows from under its neck. They could pick up a fallen comrade or a dropped weapon from the ground without ever slowing their charge. This wasn't just showmanship. It was a tactical advantage that made them nearly untouchable on the open plains. Their horses, bred for speed, stamina, and agility, were as much a part of the Comanche warrior as his bow or his lance. With this unmatched mobility, the Comanche carved out a massive territory known as Comancheria. It stretched across parts of modern-day Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Kansas, and Colorado. This wasn't just land they claimed, it was land they controlled with an iron fist. They drove out other tribes like the Apache and halted the northward expansion of the Spanish and the westward push of the Americans. For decades, they were the gatekeepers of the southern plains. Their military strategy was a terrifyingly effective blend of guerrilla warfare and psychological intimidation. The Comanche didn't fight like the European-style armies they faced. They didn't believe in standing in neat lines and trading volleys of fire. That was suicide. Instead, they perfected the art of the raid. A Comanche war party would appear as if from nowhere, striking with lightning speed and devastating force. They would hit a settlement, a wagon train, or an enemy camp, take what they wanted, horses, goods, and captives, and then vanish back into the vastness of the prairie before any organized defense could be mounted. These raids were designed to be brutal and terrifying. The goal was not just to acquire resources, but to shatter the morale of their enemies, to make the very idea of settling in Comancheria an act of foolish bravery. Survivors of Comanche raids told stories of the high-pitched war cries, the blur of painted warriors on fast ponies, and the overwhelming sense of chaos and helplessness. This reputation for ferocity was a weapon in itself. The mere rumor of a Comanche war party in the area was often enough to send settlers fleeing for the safety of fortified towns. The American army, with its slow-moving infantry columns and cumbersome supply lines, was completely outmatched. Trying to pin down a Comanche war party was like trying to catch the wind. The army would march into Comancheria, find nothing but empty grasslands, and then get ambushed on their way back, their soldiers picked off one by riders who seemed to melt into the landscape. For the better part of a century, the might of the United States military could not break the Comanche hold on the plains. Their economic power was just as significant as their military might. The Comanche controlled a vast trading network. They were the primary suppliers of horses and mules to other tribes and even to American traders. They also controlled the flow of goods, raiding settlements in Texas and Mexico, and then trading the stolen goods and captives to merchants in New Mexico, or even back to the Americans. It was a complex and ruthless economy built on raiding and trading, and it made them incredibly wealthy and powerful. Comancheria wasn't just a territory, it was the hub of a continental trade system that the Comanche commanded. However, no empire lasts forever. The downfall of the Comanche was not brought about by a single decisive battle, but by a combination of factors that slowly eroded their power. The first major blow was disease. Plagues of smallpox and cholera, to which they had no immunity, swept through their camps, devastating their population. Entire bands were wiped out, and their numbers, which were never huge to begin with, began to dwindle. The second factor was the relentless pressure of American expansion. After the Civil War, the United States turned its full attention to solving the Indian problem. The military changed its tactics, employing winter campaigns to attack the Comanche when they were most vulnerable, their horses weak, and their people gathered in winter camps. They also began to use Native American scouts from rival tribes, like the Tonkawa and the Pawnee, who could track the Comanche in ways that white soldiers never could. But the most devastating weapon unleashed against the Comanche wasn't a gun or a cannon. It was the systematic destruction of the buffalo. The American bison was the lifeblood of the Plains tribes. It provided food, shelter, clothing, tools, everything. The Comanche and the buffalo had a symbiotic relationship that had sustained them for generations. Recognizing this, the U.S. government and private hunters began a campaign of mass slaughter. Railroads brought thousands of hunters to the plains, who killed the buffalo by the millions, often just for their hides, leaving the carcasses to rot. By the 1870s, the great herds were gone. For the Comanche, it was a catastrophe. Without the buffalo, their way of life was impossible. They were starving. Their spiritual world was collapsing. The foundation of their culture and economy had been destroyed. Faced with starvation and relentless military pressure, the last free bands of the Comanche had no choice. In 1875, the great warrior Quanah Parker, son of a Comanche chief and a white captive, led his people to the reservation at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. The reign of the Lords of the Plains was over, yet their legacy endures. The Comanche Empire, at its height, was one of the most powerful indigenous nations in North American history. For over 150 years, they were the dominant force on the southern plains, a testament to human adaptability, military genius, and an unbreakable spirit. They weren't just victims of history, they were its shapers. They delayed the westward expansion of the United States by decades and wrote a chapter in the story of the American West that is filled with awe, terror, and a deep, abiding respect for the people who truly were the lords of the plains. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story of the Comanche Empire as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into history. See you next time.